Champions Cup, third round of the group stages, folks, is in the bag. We've got 3 teams who have already qualified for the next round as home qualifiers. 4 teams have booked their spot in the next round, but it remains to be seen if they'll be home or away. And then 3 sides who are yet to score a single point after 3 rounds of action. We will go through the results pretty quick, wrap them up, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on the week that was. Glasgow are playing some pretty good rugby. They didn't put in an 80-minute performance against Racing 92, but bonus point win at home. They put them to the sword really early with a pretty emphatic first half performance. If you haven't seen it, full match review for that one was done. But yeah, Racing 92's tackle percentage in the first half was 55%, which is not much better than 1 in 2 tackles made. You're not going to win many games if you fall off that many tackles. Racing did manage to kind of come back into things in the second half to score 19 points. But couldn't quite get within the 10 they would need for a losing bonus point. Couldn't quite get the 4th try they would need for a 4-try bonus point. So they walk away from this one with nothing. Glasgow get maximum points and have booked themselves through as a top qualifier for the next round. So well done to the Glasgow boys, the likes of Horn and Dobby, Cancellieri and whatnot. Tuipulotu, these backs who were getting the tries, looked very, very sharp, at least for the first half, until things kind of dropped off a little bit in terms of the performance level. The Stormers also looked pretty sharp. They were flying the flag for South Africa this week, in a week which didn't go that great for the South African teams. The Stormers put Sale Sharks to the sword, 40 points to 0. Some pretty sweet tries, Schickerling, Libok. Libok's one was my favourite with the kick over the top. Very nice, highlight worthy if you haven't seen it. Sitole, Galant, De Vet, Fenta. Really, really great stuff. They won 8 turnovers to 1, which is about as lopsided as a turnover count as you are like to see. So Stormers clearly doing some good disruption work on the Sale boys. Few yellow cards in this one, including a pretty comical one on Rob Dupree on his return to South Africa. Put in a shoulder after a guy had kicked it over him to kind of take the man out. And then after he put the shoulder in, fell down rather comically. He's not going to win any Oscars, that man. But yeah, pretty good win for the Stormers. 40 points to 0. That's their first win of this kind of Champions Cup campaign. So they're 1 and 2, just in the playoff spots for the qualifying round or for the next round. But yeah, they've obviously still got 1 game to go to see if they can make it through. Nothing's locked up for them. The Sharks and Toulouse maybe had the biggest billing of the weekend as kind of a partial Springbok against a partial French side. Antoine Dupont heading to the Southern Hemisphere was, big billing. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and did a match review for that one. It probably didn't live up to the billing just in terms of the conditions made the ball like a bar of soap. There were a ridiculous amount of handling errors. At times I compared it to like watching the NFL or something. It was just that stop-start with that many handling errors. It ends up being 20 points to 8, like 2 tries to 1. Is pretty low scoring in the scheme of things. I think Toulouse were pretty comfortable winners in the end. But there was just so much drop ball. It was hard to get too excited about that one. But it was certainly good to see Antoine Dupont doing his thing in the Southern Hemisphere. I mean, he had a stupid number of run meters. For anyone who doubts the guy, 120 run meters from Dupont in a game where the next guy, remember, he's the halfback. The halfback is not usually the top run meter guy in any team, except when it's Dupont. But 120 run meters, the next best guy in that game had 68. I think it was Pinkley for the Sharks. Yeah, he's an outside back. Those guys, the fullbacks usually lead the way, or wingers. Not usually halfbacks and not usually by almost double the next guy. So Dupont is still a danger man, but there was a heck of a lot of drop ball in that game. So yes, Toulouse are through to the next round, but they've still got a week to go to confirm if it's going to be top spot. They'll be home to Leicester Tigers. So big favourites to certainly make it 4 from 4 because they are 3 from 3 thus far. Exeter and Bordeaux. Exeter are having a pretty rough time. They are one of the 0-point sides thus far. Got absolutely hammered by Bordeaux. And Bordeaux playing some stupid, pretty rugby. Unbelievable rugby. 69 points to 17. Exeter scored first. I think they scored last as well. But there was a whole lot in between from the Bordeaux guys. Penaud ends up getting a hat-trick. He kind of turned down a hat-trick at one point where he passed the ball inside to Jalibert to score a try. There was 1 assist from Louis Bielbiere. And I know Ben Whitehouse gets a lot of stick. I know his nickname. We substitute the W in his surname for a different letter. But he knows that law, apparently. I'd never seen it before. I watch a fair bit of rugby. Never seen a dude standing on the touchline, kick a ball in field, and it still be kind of ruled in the field of play because the ball hadn't crossed the plane. Like, yeah, really, really rare refereeing call. But a try assist from Louis Bielbiere, who got 2 tries. They ran in some bloody beautiful tries. If you have not seen the highlights and are going to watch the highlights of any one game, I think that's probably the game you go watch the highlights of. Just in terms of pure try-scoring bliss. That being said, Exeter finished with a tackle percentage across the game of 68%, which is awful. Like, I mean, Racing, as I mentioned, were 55 in the first half. They picked it up to in the 70s by full time. Second half tackling performance was in the 80s, so it evened out to in the 70s. Exeter 68 across the game is genuinely very, very bad. So, yes, Bordeaux looking like one of those sides that could threaten the recent, because recent years it's been Toulouse, it's been Leinster, and it's been La Rochelle for the finals. Bordeaux is looking like one of the sides that could change up that kind of trio in terms of the sides who might make it to the final. Munster took on Saracens in a much lower scoring game. There were still a few handling errors in that game, but 17 points to 12. Munster with an injury list as long as your leg, but a couple of guys back fit, which was pleasing to see. They managed to come from behind because they were down for about an hour. Saracens didn't score any tries with their 12 points, just kicked goals. But it was enough to keep them ahead for a long time until Bleuler and Hodnett went over for tries after the hour mark. A couple of kind of quick-fire tries. Felt like a win, like a grunty arm wrestle win. Tygburn was phenomenal in that game. Like, not the kind of same X factor you're seeing from Pinot and Bielbiere and whatnot for Bordeaux, but equally phenomenal in terms of his engine and defensive prowess, ability to shut down mauls. That guy's a freak in the best sense of the word. So, yeah, penalty count was actually 8 apiece, and Saracens kicked 4 penalties. So, giving away penalties to them in that game, they were just slotting them. But, yeah, it didn't get them enough at the end, although they did get a losing bonus point from that one. Stade Francais, in their game against Northampton, managed to get through without a red card. They've had some bonkers red cards in the opening couple of rounds, but no red cards for them, and they got a win at home, 45-35, in which was also a pretty high-scoring game. Maybe this one's also right up there in terms of games you could watch if you were just checking out the highlights. I mean, it was 21-0 to Northampton, and then it was 21-19 at halftime, and then it was 45-35 at full time. So it was proper tit-for-tat bonkers stuff the entire time. A few tries from the forwards getting over from close range. Like Gabriel got a try, Tunga got a couple. But yeah, there were some good tries from the Northampton lads as well. But yeah, they'll be a bit disappointed with their line-out. And they don't get within 7 for that losing bonus point. Northampton, they did obviously get enough tries for a 4-try bonus point. But yeah, from 21-0 down to walk away with the game only having 1 point, it's going to be a bit of disappointment from the Northampton lads. But yeah, good to see Stade Francais get their first win of the competition this year. Leicester against Ulster. Ulster, another one of these sides who haven't yet picked up a point. It's been a hard campaign for them. Leicester have qualified for the next round with their win. But remember, they've also got Toulouse and Bordeaux in their pool. So that order has not been sorted out yet. And with Leicester going away to Toulouse, you're probably going to be backing them to go away in the next round. But hey, they've qualified, so that is something. They also came from behind, not quite from 21-0 down, but from 10-0 down. Like, Ulster only scored 10 points the entire match. I also did a match review of this one if you haven't seen it. But yeah, Ulster scored early. A couple of scores, a penalty and a try from Timoney, which was a real bit of soft play from Leicester. But Leicester came back and scored all their tries through the backs. Bassett got a hat-trick. Hassel-Collins got 2. And Parise, who was just busting tackles for fun, he managed to get 1 as well. So it was pretty impressive stuff in the second half, especially from Leicester. 12-10 down, 12-10 ahead at halftime. Leicester after being 10-0 down and then finishing 38-10. It's pretty good, but Ulster are certainly not a second half team in recent times. They've been fallen like a bloody house of cards, seemingly. I'm not sure what it is about the second half and them. Castres and the Bulls, speaking of capitulations, the Bulls had a pretty poor final 10 minutes in this game. Like, this score is 49-10. But when they scored their second try, Castres, it was on 64 minutes and it was only 16-10. Then you got tries on 64, 71, 73, 76, and the 79th minute. Like, that is a flurry of all flurries. Like, absolutely bonkers. What was that game in Super Rugby where, was it the Highlanders or the Chiefs came back from some stupid scoreline against one of the South African teams? Like, this was not a comeback because Castres were ahead, but that is a crazy amount of points to be putting on in such a short period. So it makes the game absolutely blown out. Whereas it was close with 15 minutes to go. It was within a score. Line breaks finish 11-2. So Castres finding a lot of gaps in the Bulls' defence come the end of that game. The Bulls are the other side, alongside Exeter and Ulster, who haven't scored any points yet. This just doesn't seem to be their competition. URC seems to be where they are at for the moment. The Champions Cup doesn't seem to be it. Toulon played Quins. Toulon are one of the teams who have locked in a home spot in the next round with their 33-21 win over Quins. They had a 26-0 lead in this one. Tries through Lucchesi, Serran, Abadi, and Wainingolo. But then a bit of a second half comeback from the Quins lads. But again, not enough to get within 7 and not enough to get that 4th try bonus point. Murley had one denied in the first half when he just lost it over the touchline when kind of going for a try. Don Brandt finishes with 25 tackles. He put in a real knock, but away from home to come away with nothing after a seemingly pretty solid comeback is a bit disappointing for them. But Toulon, another one of the top 14 teams who are looking pretty good. Like all the talks about Toulouse and Bordeaux and whatnot, but look at that. Toulon has already qualified for the next round. So very, very pleasing from their point of view. La Rochelle and Leinster was a big game. Also maybe one of the biggest kind of billing ones of the week, just because of the recent history in this competition these sides have got. Leinster got that one done, 16 points to 14 on the back of some pretty good defence. I'm not sure if you watch the highlights of this one, it will do the game justice, because Leinster were a very hard side to break down. La Rochelle, when they had, because they had heaps of ball, when they were going through these phases, just ended up getting pushed backwards by that line speed, smothering defence from the Leinster lads. There's been a bit of critique thrown at Leinster's ability to turn that on to attack, though, which is maybe fair. They did have to make a late change in the back line. Geordie Barrett ended up starting instead of being on the bench. They also missed a couple of kicks at goal. Astoy had one where he could have won it, or at least put them in front if he'd kicked the penalty, but also Ross Byrne and Geordie Barrett had missed penalties as well. So yeah, it ends up being a real kind of edge of your seat one. Dylan Lade's try was the only try for La Rochelle, and it took a proper bit of magic to bust that Leinster defence. So it finishes a try apiece. It's a conversion that is the difference. But yeah, I still feel like Leinster look hard to break down. If their attack can take it up a notch, I think they'll be right up there, but we'll kind of have to wait and see. Bristol and Benetton. This one ends with a bit of controversy because Benetton look to have scored a potentially match-winning try at the death, but it gets chalked off. They conveniently left that try scoring phase, denied try, out of the highlights package, but it's a bit of obstruction from MUNvSAR. On first viewing, it doesn't look too bad, but the more you watch it, the more it does look like obstruction. But yeah, it's unfortunate when a game comes down to that. Like you'd like that kind of incident to happen at the start of the game, because then you don't boil the game down to just that one moment. Because it seems like a real tit-for-tat game, 35-29, like heaps of tries. Like Marmion bagged a couple, including one real freak try. Lahif got one. I mean, Zuliani got one for Benetton. Gallagher got one. Yeah, there were a bunch of tries. Really, really free-flowing game. Tit-for-tat. But TMO at the end becomes the main kind of talking point. If you're a Benetton fan, you'll feel robbed. But as I said, first viewing, I was like, what was wrong with that? Second viewing, I was like, that's what's wrong with that. And then the more I zoomed in on it, slowed it down like a TMO does, the more you think MUNvSAR's taken the man out. So it's a sucks one as well, because I don't know if MUNvSAR doesn't do that. I still think Benetton probably score, but don't know. It's an unfortunate one for them, but Bristol pick up a win. And then another game which is going to be talked about largely for an officiated decision is Bath, their final game of the round up against Clermont. There's a red card to Akladze, the big Georgian, on, 24 minutes? Some people reckon that's red because he hits a guy high. He's a kind of secondary tackler who hits pretty upright, and it's kind of shoulder to head. So I can see why it was red, but you've certainly seen a lot worse red cards than that one. So it does kind of fit in that middling zone of, it's going to be You can see why a ref gave it red given the current way the interpretation is of the laws. You could also see why they could have found, because I swear to goodness these refs squirm their way out of red cards sometimes if they can find some mitigation, because they don't want to be the ones to ruin the game. This might be a good candidate for a 20-minute red card. But it's a red card, so Clermont, uphill battle from there. I mean, Bath had already scored 2 tries before that, and then they scored another one not long after. Thokonasinger, Russell to Glanville, and then Thomas Dutoy gets man of the match with a couple of tries. There you go, props. All you need to do to get man of the match is just score 2 tries. Then you'll finally get the respect you deserve. And Lawrence got one as well. 3 from Clermont. They got Fainga, Bello, and Yato. They all scored tries but couldn't quite chase down a 4th, which they were going for at the end of the game, but not to be. So, yeah, an officiating decision to chew on for that one as well. So, yeah, Leinster, Toulon, and Glasgow confirmed to be hosting games in the next round. Bordeaux, Toulouse, Leicester, and Northampton qualified. And then Ulster, Exeter, and the Bulls still pointless. In Pool 1, it is Bordeaux, Toulouse, Leicester in those top 3 positions, with the Sharks sitting in 4th. So the Sharks would go through based on the current standings. But remember, Ulster and Exeter are playing each other. Those guys are both on 0, so somebody's going to pick up points there. Pool 2, Leinster's up top. La Rochelle, Bath, and Benetton. Clermont and Bristol. You got 7 points, 7 points, 5 points, 5 points, and then La Rochelle on 10. That pool's looking pretty evenly mixed. And then Pool 3, Northampton's on 11 qualified. Then you got Munster and Saracens on 10, plus Castres on 9. Stade Francais on 5, and then the Bulls on nothing. So again, there's a reason there's no other sides qualified just yet, because it is pretty tight in the middle. And then Pool 4, Toulon and Glasgow way up top with 13 and 12 points. Everybody else on 5, 5, 5, and 4. Kind of have to wait to see how things pan out. But you guys let us know your thoughts. What do you reckon is going to be the game of the round for the final round? A couple of these games had bigger billing than I'm used to seeing in the first couple of rounds with the Champions Cup, which was pleasing. I don't think I got up any 4 o'clock games for the first 2 rounds, but it was pleasing. The Leinster and La Rochelle one certainly, I think, lived up to the billing. The Sharks and the Toulouse game was a little bit too messy to have fully lived up to the billing. Like, if you were going to sell the Champions Cup to someone, that probably wouldn't be the game you'd show them. You'd show them Northampton's game, or you'd maybe show them the maybe the Bordeaux game, just in terms of the freak tries. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts on the Champions Cup 3rd round, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.